Hi there, part 2 of my Leinil Yu graphic novel review. This is the best Leinil Yu, who is an artist, comic book series collected in trade paperbacks that I own. Now, that sounds like a lot of prefacing, but I'm a big fan of Leinil Yu, Mr. Leinil Yu, Leinil Francis Yu, and while there are a few, as I admitted in the part 1 of this two-part segment, I don't have his work on Wolverine, and there are some other series that he has done the interior art for, and he's done a lot of covers, but, you know, I think I got a pretty good library, so hopefully you'll like a few more of the books I'm going to recommend. Now, next up is a two-parter, more Marvel work, and I'm going to treat them separately. So just first, we've got Leinil Yu working with Brian Michael Bendis on New Avengers. Now, this was just post-Civil War, and that's the original Civil War, not Secret Worlds, Battle World Civil War. And what we had here was the fracturing of or the becoming of two teams. There's Iron Man's, registration side that has won, and then there's the Captain America, Luke Cage, the heroes who believe that they, consider their identity as necessary to protect the ones they love, that they're not police, and that they oppose government direct control. Now, Civil War has come and gone, and you already had one volume that Brian Michael Bendis, volume 6, worked with Leinil Yu, and I have it on my shelf behind me. The reason why I'm showcasing this one, though, The Trust, is this is the point where building into Secret Invasion, which I personally think is one of the best crossover mega events that Marvel has done, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment why. This is setting the stage for that. And the previous volume has some great teases, gets the ball rolling, but it's really volume 7 that sees sides being drawn around, and remember Secret Invasion is based on the Skrull invasion. Who can you trust? Who's a Skrull? Who's not a Skrull? Who maybe being a Skrull and being, helping fan the flames of the Civil War? Or who's a Skrull and used the changing alliances to ingratiate himself with a new group. Maybe people who wouldn't know him as well, thus realize he's an imposter. Leinil Yu does some phenomenal artwork, especially like the cover to that issue with Wolverine and Spider-Woman. But there's another great one here with Wolverine being, this is not it, unfortunately, being consumed by the Venom virus. Let's see, maybe I've got a picture at the back. Fortunately not. I definitely, here we go. Wolverine becoming Venom Wolverine, Wolva-Venom. That's just one of my all-time favorite bits of cover art. But, Leinil Yu fans, you won't be disappointed. Lots of fantastic action. We also see the return of the Cabal, which is the Hood's sort of criminal version of the Illuminati. Great read. It does require reading a fair bit of the New Avengers leading up to this. But here's the thing. I totally think you should. For me, Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers, that starts Volume 1, and that's Volume 7. Volume 5 is Civil War, and certainly goes to at least, I think, Volume 11 or 12, and then moves on. The next volume has John Romita Jr. doing art on Avengers, and Stuart Immonen comes in on the relaunch of New Avengers. And then the title keeps on going. So, I mean, at some point, maybe you're going to ask yourself, where do I stop trying to collect all these graphic novels? That's a good point. My answer is right after Secret Invasion. It's not that I dislike Bendis' work that came afterwards, and I realize this isn't work that Leinil Yu did, but Leinil Yu is the artist on the main Secret Invasion story, and what this book did was bring together 5 years of Brian Michael Bendis writing New Avengers, writing Mighty Avengers that came out after Civil War, and there were a number of questions, people had posed to him at conventions or, through Wizard Magazine, saying, this scene doesn't make sense, or how do these things seem to conflict. And not only does Secret Invasion really answer all of that, but the tie-ins, volumes 8 and 9 of New Avengers, I want to say volumes 4 and 5, maybe 3 and 4 of the Mighty Avengers, they reveal how the different Skrulls have replaced who they replace. Also reveal all the sort of events just off panel or just off beat in a way from what we already had seen with Brian Michael Bendis' run on New Avengers. So all the questions get asked, and there are no loose threads. It all weaves together and creates this phenomenal storyline that is this event. Now, I know some people don't like big events. They got lots of tie-ins, crossovers, and this one certainly had that. A number that I wouldn't even suggest you read. They're just, I hate to say it, sorry Marvel, but just trying to capitalize on the summer's big blockbuster event. What I would say though is reading New Avengers, reading Mighty Avengers, and especially the 4 books that tie in with this. The 5 of them come together to create a phenomenal layered read. And the main one, of course, coming back to the best of Leinil Yu, is Secret Invasion. It was 8 issues. Yep. And you get some phenomenal artwork. You get some amazing writing, just showing some of the variant covers from the back. But what I also really liked about this series was that, to me, that's maybe a bit spoilery. You know, while you saw the return of Thor, God of Thunder, to a more active role in Marvel Universe, you see Captain America / Bucky Barnes out in the uniform as sort of, you know, in a way, with Iron Man, the original 3, not that they're exactly the original 3, but the original 3 Avengers come back to try and rally the heroes of the Marvel Universe. And at the same time, I don't want to totally spoil the ending, but what happens sets in motion several years of changes in Marvel that I thought were really bold on their part. And definitely after this, with Dark Reign, and again, I don't want to say too much, but I like stories that have an impact and that have a lasting impact. So if you're a Marvel fan, if you're a Brian Michael Bendis fan, if you're a Leinil Yu fan, or you just love a phenomenal, great story, definitely check out Secret Invasion. It is also one of my top favorites of Leinil Yu. This is Teen Plus. Likewise, actually, sorry, Avengers is all ages. A little surprised, but I'm sure, you know, they're writing it that way. I mentioned before, the last book I haven't mentioned is SUPERCROOKS, but let me come back to that. The Ultimate Avengers I mentioned before, definitely mature readers. The Superman Birthright, definitely all ages. Of all of them, I'd say that's the most heartwarming and, you know, emotionally innocent in a way of the stories. Certainly, the Avengers and Secret Invasion is kind of like a middle ground, teen readers. And Ultimate Avengers is definitely mature, which brings me to Leinil Yu working outside of Marvel or DC and working with, though, Mark Millar again on what is hopefully soon to be a movie, as I really like this, this volume, SUPERCROOKS. So the premise is a bunch of villains need to steal a whole bunch of money to save one of their friends. And from there you have a very kind of Ocean's 11 vibe, but still with lots of crazy action. So let's try to find some more Ocean's 11. But here's the crazy, the crazy action. Like I said, I find Leinil Yu really conveys the motion of you know, combat very well. I would say his art style is certainly changing a little bit, becoming a little more mainstream. I find the pencils a little, when I say a little less rough, it's not that they are rough bad, just in a way a little less kinetic. That I think, you know, probably, you know, 10, 20 years of working with Marvel, there's maybe been a little bit of a smoothing of his art process. That said, I'm a big fan of his faces as well, and I like that, you know, he make people look both real and, you know, inject that sort of level of fantasy, super realism maybe, that, you know, this isn't real life, and you know, he's not trying to draw it exactly like that, but you can, in a way, blur the line maybe a little bit more than I'm a huge fan of, say, someone like J. Scott Campbell or Michael Turner, who have a very much more voluptuous pin-up style than, you know, I would associate with Leinil Yu. So, I'm a big fan of Leinil Yu. Definitely check out his graphic novels. Another one that just came to mind as I'm wrapping it up is another one with Mark Millar, who phenomenal writer, called Superior, and that's about a young boy who essentially gets Superman's powers, kind of a Shazam, Captain Marvel-esque tale. Don't have a volume here as I lent it out to a friend to read like 2 years ago, but another book, Leinil Yu, phenomenal, great artwork. Though always keep in mind when you're dealing with Mark Millar, you're probably looking at mature reader plus, so not the stuff to hand a 10-year-old. But if you're like me and you're in your 30s and you're reading comic books, they're perfect. Comic books by adults for adults without being too sleazy or weird. And suddenly I'm thinking maybe it's time to wrap up. So before I start blushing too much, my name is Andrew Ace. You can find me online at UYS999. I love comments, so please share books that you've enjoyed, ones maybe I haven't read or reviewed, or haven't read and should, and I'll be back next week with another graphic novel comic book review. Cheers.